My parents kicked me out at 16 for being obsessed with video games instead of studying. "You'll never amount to anything playing those stupid games," my dad screamed as I packed my bags. 3 years later, I just signed a $2 million esports contract, and they're blowing up my phone begging me to come home. I'm Alex, 19, and I'm currently one of the top professional gamers in North America. But this story starts when I was 16, and my parents thought I was throwing my life away playing video games instead of focusing on what they considered real education. My parents, Robert and Linda, are both accountants who met in college and built what they considered a respectable middle-class life. Dad works for a tax firm. Mom handles bookkeeping for small businesses. They live in the same suburban house, drive sensible cars, and plan everything around financial security. From the time I could hold a controller, I was obsessed with video games. Not just playing them, but understanding them. How they worked, what made some players better than others, the strategy and psychology behind competitive gaming. My parents saw it as a waste of time, a distraction from homework and sports and the activities they thought would lead to college scholarships and stable careers. They set time limits, took away my console as punishment, constantly nagged about balance. By 14, I was already ranking in the top percentiles of several competitive games. I started making YouTube videos analyzing gameplay, building a small but dedicated following. My bedroom was set up like a command center with multiple monitors and streaming equipment I'd saved for. That's when the real fighting started. My parents couldn't understand why I'd spend my allowance on gaming gear instead of clothes or whatever normal teenagers bought. They'd lecture me about living in the real world and developing practical skills. The breaking point came during my sophomore year when I qualified for a regional tournament with a $10,000 prize pool. It was on a weekend, meant missing one day of school, and required traveling to Chicago with some older players I'd met online. My parents absolutely lost their minds. Dad said I was becoming obsessed with fantasy, that I needed to focus on subjects that would actually matter for college applications. Mom worried about safety, traveling with strangers to compete in what she called glorified video games. When I showed them the tournament information, the legitimate organizations involved, the potential prize money, they dismissed it all as pipe dreams. Dad said even if I won, which was unlikely, it was just a fluke that wouldn't lead to any real career opportunities. I went to the tournament anyway, forging their permission signature and borrowing money from my part-time job to cover travel expenses. My parents grounded me when I got back, even after I finished third place and won $1,200. That money was the first I'd ever earned from gaming, and it felt like validation that I wasn't crazy. I'd competed against players from across the country and held my own, but my parents saw it as proof I was prioritizing the wrong things. The fighting escalated through spring semester. My grades were decent, mostly B's with some A's in subjects I cared about, but my parents wanted straight A's. They couldn't understand that I was already working toward a career, just not one they recognized. They started getting more controlling, installed parental controls on our internet, set a timer on my gaming setup, threatened to throw away my equipment if my grades didn't improve. The more they pushed, the more I pulled away. I was streaming regularly by then, had built an audience of a few thousand followers who watched me play and appreciated my strategic breakdowns.
Full story link below.